So welcome to Triggernometry. We're going to be talking about some of the topic triggers inside of Copilot Studio, really going back to Power Virtual Agents and just understanding foundational capabilities that are there for you. But first, just a little bit about me. So I got my bachelor's in computer graphics. I've been spending my entire career in IT, a lot of different roles from dev to arc to managing director. I got started back in the day with SharePoint 2007, currently serving as the head of Copilot and Microsoft 365 apps at Takeda, and also a dual MVP inside of business applications and AI platform. Okay, that's enough about me. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, like I said, we're going to be really going through definitions of different trigger types. We're going to do plenty of demos. A little sort of sneak peek into the demos. We're going to be doing a old demo I actually did, a expedited old demo I did last year on custom feedback that no longer works based on changes to Copilot Studio. We're going to see how to make it work with some of the new trigger types. And that is what we're going to be doing. So let's jump right into some definitions. So we've got a lot of different types of triggers by default. And we've got our classic orchestration triggers, and then we have some generative orchestration triggers. Now, in the last few weeks, this has changed to the point where you normally had to enable generative AI inside of your Copilot to be able to see those generative AI features. That's now the default. So the good news is all of the classic trigger types are there still for you, except for one, and that's the very first one, which is the one you've probably used the most if you were sort of a Power Virtual Agent user back in the day, which is the user says a phrase. So this is all about natural language understanding. This is all about trying to predict the words that your users will ask for, and that if you're able to get that match, it will trigger your topic. Now, it, again, a few years back was the only way to really trigger or try to have a conversational approach, but we're going to see this gets replaced by a new generative AI trigger type in a second. You also have when an activity occurs. Now you have a ton of different types of activities that you can trigger on, even including things like message reactions to your messages inside of the Microsoft Teams client. We can trigger when a message is received, and it's actually just a specific type of activity. I mentioned all the different types. Some of these are sort of redundant, but we're focusing on the highlights when you go in and create a new topic. And then we also have the ability to interface with custom client events. So imagine building something in Power Apps or building something in a custom web app. Let's say you've got a map of all your locations. Somebody clicks on that map and you want to maybe give information from your chatbot directly to that from that location. You can do things like that with those custom client events. And moving right along, the next part here we have for our classic triggers when the conversation changes. So maybe it's somebody coming back to join a conversation with an HR agent and you want to capture them rejoining. You also have the ability to do something when something's been invoked. So let's say that the user is inside of Teams, they're interacting with the search bar, and you want to be able to respond to that interaction. You can do that. You also can do a redirect to a topic. So if you want to have a topic that's never going to be directly hit, but one that other topics actually redirect to when you want and choose to, you can do that. And then another one that I think it's been there for a while, I'm not sure how many users are familiar with, is when someone has been inactive. And so you want to be able to just reach out and ask the user if they're still there, if there's anything that you can help with. So those are all the classic orchestration types. And again, you're going to get them all either way, except for the phrases one, which gets replaced with this first one I'm showing now, which is the agent chooses. So that's when we basically say we're not going to try and predict the 100 different combinations of how a user might ask for store hours. We're going to essentially just let AI handle that. And we're going to create a topic. We're going to tell AI what it's for, and we're going to rely on it to determine based on what the user said, shifting them over to that topic. And then we've got two newer ones within just the last few months. One, when a AI plan has completed, and then also when an AI generated response is about to be sent. The keyword is about, because it has not been sent yet, and we're going to actually do some demos on that particular one. So let's actually jump right into it. So the first thing that we're going to do is I am creating a brand new agent so that you know there's nothing in here yet. I've skipped to the advanced configuration. We're just going to call it M365 demo, and we will go ahead and click that. And we will give it just a few seconds for it to create our agent so that you know, again, that this is fresh out of the oven. Now, while we're waiting for this, again, some of the changes I'll try to highlight as we're working through this particular demo. If you've been in here 2 weeks ago, you may see changes, right, as far as things that are different about the UI. So I'll try to highlight some of those. So the first thing, though, that I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the settings and, again, sort of highlight the fact that this is already going to be using generative orchestration. And again, back a few weeks ago, it wasn't. This was the default. Also, just sort of a throw-in free tip for you. If you're wondering where some of the knowledge settings used to be on the knowledge and overview pages, such as relating to being able to have the model use general knowledge, those are now tucked inside of the generative AI capability. So if I didn't want to actually have the general knowledge capability on my model, this is where I could turn it off, but we're going to leave everything as is. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to topics, and I'm going to go create a new topic from blank. And this is where we get to see all of those trigger types that I just very quickly went over. And so for this particular one, we want to actually do something when the user has been inactive for a while. So we could say they've been active for a while. We could do something simple. We could say, is there anything I can help you with? And you're saying, well, when is this going to happen? And if we go and edit this, this is where we're going to actually see that by default gives us 15, 30, 45 minutes, an hour. Now, if I flip this over to formula, this actually takes me to the number of seconds. So if you wanted to be able to change this to meet your needs, you can do that. And I will say one thing, you will not see this trigger fire inside of the Copilot Studio test module. If you wanted to actually put that in Teams, you would, and then you would end up with something sort of like this, where I was outputting can I help you with? I was outputting the channel, and are you still there? Yes or no. So again, these do work really well, but you're not going to be able to see them in Teams. I didn't want to take time away from our demo for that, but that's how you would do that particular one. And for this, we are actually going to just repurpose this. Let's just go ahead and kill this and do something different. The next one is the message received. So let's say that I want to sort of understand, like, what's the tone and feeling of my user throughout the conversation. So I feel like, hey, they're getting upset. I need to escalate this to a live agent. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change, and I'm going to say this is a message has been received. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a tool call, and I've actually created up here with the ability to do a new prompt. I've created one already for the demo called sentiment, and I'm just passing in text. And then I'm asking the model to say positive, neutral, negative. And so for what we're putting into it, we're going to actually go down here and we're going to look at the last message as text. And then again, if I quickly pull up this model, you'll see a very, very simple prompt. And again, that's just going to be positive, neutral, or negative. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that out and confirm that. That's fine. And now with the output, we'll create a new variable. And so now we've got a variable that's actually tracking what's happening here. And the last thing that I want to actually do is I want to do a condition on this. And so I want to be able to say, and we're going to actually flip this over and we're going to change it to a formula. And I want to basically be able to say, is that variables? And we'll say lower. So the topic.var1 dot text, right? Is that equal to negative? And the reason I'm doing this check on the lower is because of the fact that it often likes to go ahead and not necessarily follow that exactly. And so sometimes it will do some capitalization. And so I'm just doing some extra covering here to basically make sure. And so I can say if the topic is negative, right, then I want to do something, right? And so I'm going to say, I'm sorry to hear you're frustrated. Let's get you to a live agent. And then let's say I can actually do the topic management and do a transfer conversation and do that. And we'll actually not go with transfer conversation. We'll just go ahead and do the topic management to go to the escalation topic. Go ahead and save this, and we'll call this the sentiment. And so again, what's happening now is every time the user is talking, running this prompt, I'm seeing what they think, and I can see if they're getting upset because I feel like it's coming back negative. So I could just say, hey, what's up? Hopefully that's not negative. Okay, and you can see it's already triggered it, right? And you can see that it's gone to the other side of our topic because of the fact that it wasn't negative. And I can say my tummy is upset. And now, again, that's going to fire, and we can see that I'm sorry to hear you're frustrated. Let's get you to a live agent. And the irony of that is the live agents don't have been set up, so you're not going to be able to get to one. But that's a great way or use case of the actual message event. And then now I want to go into one more. So I'm going to go to topics. I'm actually going to turn this one off because I don't want it to interfere with our demo. This is one of my favorite ones in the types of triggers, and that is this here is a generated response is about to be completed. So I mentioned the custom feedback ability and how the generative AI boosting topic actually is no longer being hit. Essentially, what's happening is if you follow that tutorial and you're trying to put in your adaptive card, it's not going to happen because the way that things have changed, you don't get to tap into that event. But this one does allow you to. And so I can do several things here. I can say send a message. And if I go to my variables system, you're going to see if I scroll down the list that I actually have a response variable already there for me in the system. I can say that's the formatted text. If I want to, I can then go in and I can add the adaptive card here. And for purposes of the demo, we'll actually skip that. It is the same one, and I'll put a comment on my blog here. And then when I go to the end here, I also have the ability to do variable management, set a variable value. This is important. If you set the continue response variable to false, this is basically your way to hijack the generative AI response. So if I do this right now, and we'll say a Gen AI, and we'll save it, and we'll ask something really quick. We'll say, how tall is David Warner? And tried this before, and it's probably not the answer that we want, but we get the Australian cricketer. Sorry, David. But what's happening here, again, you can see the topics being hit. I'm still outputting the answer, and I'm killing the variable, and I'm saying basically I'm in charge of it. So other things you could do here, you could output the adaptive card here to be able to say looks good, doesn't look good, etc. And also imagine, let's say that your company has a list of words that they don't want to ever show up inside of a response, right? We could definitely check that particular list of words. And then by intercepting that, right, we could basically say, hey, this response is one of, a flagged word, and I'm not going to show you the response. So this is super, super powerful. This gives you full control, allows you to evaluate the response, allows you to see the citations, do anything you want. And that, in a nutshell, is advanced trigonometry. So that is it. Thank you.